Alright, what is up guys, it is Storm back here with another video, and in this one I'm bringing you part 16 to the New Dawn and Naruto / Boruto story. But before the video begins, if you like the content you're seeing, be sure to subscribe, like, and comment. I mean, they're all free, so why not? If you want some dope channel merch, the link that'll be down in the description below, and if you want to see more of me, go check out my other channels and go follow me on Twitter and Instagram, which will all be linked down below. But without further ado, why don't we just dive right on in. It was 3 weeks later that the next murder occurred. Boruto and Akari had received a messenger hawk from the Steam Lord's police and made their way north, deep into the mountains, to a small remote village nestled between two towering peaks of stone. By the time they arrived, the crime scene was nearly 2 weeks old. It was the same methodology as the previous murders. Random victims, brutally mutilated, an assailant painted the home with blood. Upon further inspection, the same symbol, the circle and triangle, was found drawn crudely on the floor upon which the bodies rested. It was unfortunate that they had not been able to reach the remote location sooner. The assailant could have been any one of the numerous travelers they had seen on their way to the village, but he could have also been lingering in the area to see the reaction of his kills. The last man had seemed inordinately pleased with the police's reaction to his killings. Boruto and Akari prayed this one had the same psychological defects as his predecessor. It would make him that much easier to catch. Akari watched Boruto with thinly veiled scrutiny as he read once again from the blank scroll. His blue eyes roved over it as if reading, but every time she caught him, the parchment was as white as snow. "I thought your elaborate prank would have ended months ago," she commented. Boruto couldn't hide his smirk. She had caught him reading from the scroll the Uzumaki gifted him during one of their longer assignments. It was only a matter of time, really, until he was caught with it. That was when he found out one of the more interesting seals placed on the scroll. It couldn't be read by anyone except an Uzumaki. "I'm in it for the long con," Boruto quipped. He knew it irritated her. He ignored his partner's muttering, ranting as he continued to read, at length, the details of the Uzumaki clan's own branch of curse seals. They were quite useful, if morally ambiguous. The one he was researching was the curse seal of sincerity, the same one the Uzumaki had used on him when Kohaku dragged him before her, that prevented the target from lying. Well, it didn't prevent them from lying, but the pain it put them through was a good deterrent to it. The next time they caught one of the Jashin freaks, they would be getting answers out of him. That Boruto could guarantee. Boruto peered over the scroll, watching as Akari laid a pestle and mortar on the table they sat at. She withdrew several handfuls of herbs, roots, and flowers, before beginning to turn them into a pulp. The pungent sense of plant matter irritated his nose. "What are you making?" Boruto asked curiously. "A stronger truth serum," Hikari answered. The previous culprit seemed resistant to it. A stronger dosage should prove more effective, assuming the culprits are linked in some way. Boruto winced. Her truth serums were a derivative of a secret formula used by the Mist. It tended to lead the drinker in a near vegetative, if cooperative state. Boruto stood and opened a nearby window to allow fresh air in. The small cabin they had been given for the duration of their stay didn't allow for much ventilation. Boruto had no interest in discovering that the fumes from Hikari's concoction worked just as well as her poisons. "Who do you think these guys are?" Boruto asked conversationally as he sat back down. Hikari never ceased her grinding of the herbs. Given the degree of dedication and the zeal in which the previous culprit defended himself, Jashin could be a subversive element of the Lane of Steam, possibly an angry former member of the Lord's Court, or a former ninja with a grudge. "People are often motivated by such leaders to go above and beyond the call of duty," she answered succulently. Boruto sighed. He hoped it wasn't another disgruntled revolutionary. They had already had to put down one of those in the Land of Frost. It had been long, grueling, boring work. The only reason Boruto stuck with it was the pay. 10 million Ryu was a lot of money. "I hope not," he commented. His eyes flickered back over the hand seals required for the curse seal of sincerity. 102 in total. Boruto's memory was a little hazy, but he didn't think that the Uzumaki used that many. No doubt a powerful demonstration of her mastery of the discipline of sealing that she was able to cut so many seals. A snap echoed in through the window of their cabin. Boruto stiffened and Akari stilled her pestle and mortar. The two shared brief nods. Boruto deposited his scroll back into the seal on his forearm and activated his Byakugan. Boruto nodded and flashed through a series of hand signs. 2 men, tree line, armed. Akari nodded. Message received. Both stood and made their way to a dark corner of the small cabin. Hikari near the rear, perfect position to throw needles, and Boruto near the door, close enough to their would-be attackers to use his gentle fist. Boruto watched as both men crept from the trees and inched closer and closer to their cabin. They both stood in front, listening, waiting, watching. Boruto thought that they were going to back off when they took a single step forward and inhaled. Fire style, fireball jutsu. Boruto and Hikari leapt through the windows of their small wooden abode just in time to avoid being incinerated. Boruto was livid. Though he hadn't left anything of great value in the cabin, the scrolls containing their food, water, and other supplies were, and more importantly, the clothes he had laid out for the next morning. They were designer brand, Tanaka, and cost more than these two poor souls' lives were probably worth. Hikari, on the other hand, was furious. She lost a good supply of herbs and roots that would take time and effort to replace. She appeared before one of their attackers in a blur of a body flicker and slammed her fist into his chest before he could react. There was a loud echoing crunch that everyone could hear, and the man flew across the clearing and slammed into a tree trunk. He fell, boneless to the ground. "A curse upon you, blasphemers!" Boruto heard the other men howl. "Repent now for killing one of Lord Jashin's faithful, and you may still choose the path of righteousness." Boruto descended upon the man in an imperceptible blur. Their would-be attacker didn't even register Boruto's body flicker as he struck him along the spine several times, blocking his spinal chakra points and paralyzing him. The man flailed as he fell to the ground. Boruto's eyes roamed and pierced the man's body. There, in his gut, just like the last assailant, was a smooth stone with characters etched into it. They began to glow a fiery orange. "Lord Jashin, I offer you these sacrifices." Boruto weaved a few hand seals, placing his palm on the man's abdomen. The glow ceased, disarmed. Boruto smirked as the would-be suicide bomber realized his technique had failed. "Where is your Lord Jashin now?" Boruto questioned, kneeling next to the man and flipping him over. Hikari hovered over his shoulder, cracking her knuckles menacingly. They both enjoyed the look of fear that came over the man. "You should never challenge an Uzumaki with seals," Boruto warned, as he began to weave hand seals. It took him half a minute to finish them all, and when he did, he extended his index finger. It was aflame with an inky black chakra. "Uzumaki art. Curse seal of sincerity," Boruto intoned as he pressed his finger to the man's forehead. With his Byakugan, Boruto could see his chakra infiltrate and consume the man's chakra, integrating itself into his pathway system and spreading throughout the body. An inky black circle appeared in the man's forehead, with 6 arms spiraling towards a single point in the center, the symbol of the whirlpool. Finishing the seal, Boruto formed the Ram hand seal. The curse seal activated, glowing an angry red color. "Who are you?" Boruto asked. "Fuck you, Lord Jashin will." "Wrong answer," Boruto chitted, as the seal did its work. The man howled in fury and pain as Boruto's foreign chakra wreaked havoc on the man's chakra pathways. Again, "Who are you?" "Fuck!" More howls of pain. Boruto sighed. At least he wasn't taking masochistic pleasure in his pain like their assailant in the Hin Steam did. That would have been awkward. "Who are you?" Boruto asked for the 3rd time. The man whimpered. "I initiate Hikaru," he managed to spit out. "Oh, Lord Jashin, forgive me, for I have sinned." "Who is this Lord Jashin?" Boruto questioned. A look of pure zealous ecstasy overtook Initiate's features. "Lord Jashin is the one true god of this world. He demands that we bring death and destruction upon you heathens." Boruto nodded, like he understood the nutjob. "Religious fanatics. Great. Why did you attack us?" The man looked like he was struggling to fight against his desire to serve his lord, and his desire to not experience the pain of the curse seal again. He was cut short as a knife sailed through the air and caught him in the throat. Boruto and Hikari's head snapped at the opposite side of the road and saw the man who Hikari had slain had in fact not been killed. "I thought you killed him," Boruto yelped. "I did," Hikari hissed. She was sure of it. She heard and felt every bone in his body break under the power of her chakra-enhanced strength. "Lord Jashin, forgive us, for we have failed you," the man chanted, holding his arms skyward. "I enter into your embrace willingly, with the fires of my life breathing destruction in its wake." Boruto didn't like the sound of that. His eyes widened as his Byakugan saw the man's chakra rapidly empty into a burning inferno into the man's belly. Amen. The night was lit up with the burst of fire so hot that it was nothing but a flash of white. Boruto yanked Hikari close, pushing her into his chest. She instinctively wrapped her arms around him as Boruto expelled chakra from every point in his body and spun. Hikari clenched her jaw at the sudden violent sense of vertigo that assailed her. The rotation of the revolving heaven threatened to make her violently ill. Still, she held on, for fear of the raging fire that was only separated by a thin veil of rapidly spinning chakra. When the heat died down, Boruto was covered in a thin sheen of sweat that soaked his shirt, half from the heat, half from the exertion of maintaining the revolving heaven for an extended duration. Peering through the rising smoke, Boruto saw nothing but scorched earth all around them. Entire trees had been turned to ash, and their cabin was simply gone. Hikari pulled Boruto to his feet and began to wander back through the forest, her eyes locked on the ground. She kneeled, pushing aside a small pile of fallen leaves, revealing a footprint. They hiked up the mountain, she told Boruto, who followed her obediently. I might be able to track them all the way back to where they came from if they didn't cover their tracks. Hikari led Boruto on a meandering hike through the untamed wild of the Land of Steam. They followed an animal path, almost indistinguishable from the surrounding shrubs and bushes, through ravines and gullies, up mountains and through dark caves. Whoever the people were who had attacked them had traversed a great distance through rugged terrain in order to kill them. Dawn was breaking when they finished their trek, having walked through the night. We're here, Hikari told him. They hid behind a small copse of trees, standing before a wide plain of grass that separated them from a base of a towering mountain of stone. In front of them was the gaping maw of a cave. Boruto heeded the unspoken command as his eyes faded from blue to white. Whilst the Byakugan was heralded as the all-seeing eye, Boruto had quickly discovered that looking underground made him ill. It was incredibly disorienting not being able to see the ground you stood on, and thus he and Boruto assumed many other Hyuga clansmen unconsciously restricted their vision above ground. Boruto's eyes followed the cave as it meandered deep beneath the mountain, before splitting off into numerous tunnels that snaked off in every direction. One tunnel, in particular, led to a large underground cavern where Boruto could see a number of chakras burning brightly. Found them, he told Hikari. Together, the two of them crept through the dark tunnels, working their way ever downwards into the depths. Had Boruto not seen their destination with his own eyes, you would have never suspected that there was anyone or anything below the mountain. The tunnels appeared natural and deserted. No markings, no worn paths, no torches to illuminate the way. The Jashin cultists had chosen their lair wisely, but it was all laid bare before the Byakugan. As Boruto steadily closed the distance between the antechamber, he could see the details more clearly. Rows of worn wooden pews were lined up in the cavern, providing ample sitting space. There were bouquets of herbs burning, hung in wrought iron catches that were bolted into the stone walls. They provided the dimmest twilight in which the cultists could see. At the floor of the room, there was a large slab of black stone that reminded Boruto of obsidian. Resting on the slab was a woman. Her body did not burn with a chakra like the others. She was dead. A corpse. Boruto could see the chains and manacles attached to her wrists and ankles that held her to the slab. Looming above the dead woman was a massive face that had been carved into the very stone of the cavern. It was the visage of a man, his features contorted in anger and wrath. He had a gaping maw of fangs and 4 eyes, one set of 2 sitting just above the others. It was demonic, Boruto thought. We're getting close, he whispered to Hikari. Hikari nodded. Boruto could see her chakra flare as she prepared for whatever battle they were about to wage. Boruto's attention moved to the men in the cavern. There were 7 in total, 6 sitting in the pews, and 1 kneeling before the corpse of the dead woman. Boruto felt his stomach knot as he realized the slab of stone was, in actuality, an altar. The cultists were worshipping death? There was a dull light at the end of the tunnel as the two of them came to a stop at the cavern opening. A deep humming noise vibrated through the stone. Boruto realized they were praying. Perfect. Boruto and Hikari shared a quick look of unspoken agreement. Months of partnership culminating in being able to formulate a plan without words. Both stood, weaving hand seals. Hikari inhaled, her cheeks and chest expanding. Boruto brandished both hands forward as Hikari exhaled a wave of water that surged forward and swept the cultists up. Lightning arced from Boruto's fingertips, coursing through the water and electrocuting the cultists. Boruto winced as he heard the men howl in pain. They flailed in the water, desperately trying to free themselves to no avail. After a few moments, they stilled. Boruto and Akari ceased their attack. The waters died down, quickly dissipating without chakra to sustain them. Stray arcs of electricity danced across the remaining puddles, remnants of Boruto's lightning. "Well, that was easy," Boruto remarked, staring down at the bodies of the cultists. "Think there are any more of them?" "It's possible," Hikari said. The murders were widespread across the land of steam, indicating an organization of many people, or several highly mobile killers. Boruto flinched and narrowly avoided an elongated metal spike that hissed through the air and embedded itself in the stone. Boruto turned to face a man who staggered to his feet. He wore tattered black robes that revealed a necklace of beads with a strange symbol. The circle with the triangle, made of silver, worn around his neck. Angry burns and charred skin decorated his chest. "No way, I put enough volts into that attack to fry these guys alive," Boruto said. "You heathens," the cultist spat. "In the name of Lord Jashin, we will experience the ultimate pain together in penitence for defiling his temple." Hikari withdrew several handfuls of needles and peppered the cultist as he sprinted at them. "That hurts," the man howled, as he charged forward, heedless of the needles. "Use your poison ones," Boruto yelled. "I did," Hikari hissed, withdrawing more. Both of them were forced to dodge as the cultists hurled more metal spikes at them. Hikari expertly sunk needle after needle into the man as she weaved between the spikes. Still, the man kept coming at them. "I am the High Priest of Lord Jashin. He protects me from your pitiful attacks," the cultist screeched as he drew a long, serrated sword from within his tattered robes. Boruto appeared behind the priest in a blur of a body flicker, his hands lashed out, index fingers striking him in the back with lances of chakra. The cultist fell to the ground and did not rise. Boruto sighed. "Freak," he commented, extending a hand to pull Hikari over the body of the priest. Hikari shoved him backwards, narrowly avoiding having his arm cut off as the priest flailed and screeched, staggering to his feet. "That's impossible," Boruto yelled. "I hit his heart. He should be dead." "He has some sort of regenerative ability," Hikari summarized, pointing at the cultist's chest. Boruto saw that the burns from his lightning were faded, almost as if they weren't even there. "In the name of Lord Jashin, I will make you suffer," the high priest roared, reaching into his robes and producing another retractable metal spike. He charged them, sword swinging wildly. Boruto and Hikari ducked and weaved, nimbly avoiding every hack, slash, and stab the cultists threw at them. They retaliated in kind. Gentle fist strikes that should have blocked chakra points and ruptured organs, and poison-laced needles that would even given the greatest of beasts trouble. Still, the priest continued his furious assault. "This isn't working," Hikari yelled over the din of the melee. "Hit him hard," Boruto barked, striking the priest in his pressure points. With a gentle fist, he was forced to drop the spike. The cultist swung at Boruto wildly, trying to kill him. Hikari appeared in a burst of speed and slammed her fist into his back. Her chakra-enhanced strength sent the priest careening into the cavern wall with such force that the stone cracked. There was an audible crunch that echoed back up the tunnels as the man fell to the ground, boneless and lifeless. Boruto sighed. Finally," he muttered. "Let's get out of here and pick up our reward," Boruto trailed off. He saw the priest's extinguished chakra flare back to life, like a dying ember that had been breathed new life. He turned back to see the priest rise on unsteady legs. Boruto and Hikari watched as the man's wrecked and deformed body popped back into place, like it hadn't even been broken in the first place. Boruto's eyes were wide with disbelief. The cultist had shrugged off electrocution, having his heart struck by the gentle fist, and now having nearly every bone in his body broken by Hikari. Something wasn't right. "Oh," the high priest moaned. "Lord Jashin, I thank you for this gift of unending pain." "We just have to hit him harder," Hikari said, cracking her knuckles menacingly. Boruto nodded, brandishing his right arm with his palm facing up and his fingers half curled. A sphere of whirling chakra began to form, blue and white, and angry. Both of them blurred forward as the priest howled in rage and swung his sword blindly. Hikari appeared behind him, and kicked him with enough force to send him sailing into the cavern wall on the far side of the room. Before he could fall, Boruto appeared and slammed a Rasengan into his chest. The cavern exploded with light and pressure, causing dust to fall from the ceiling. Boruto hopped backwards, pleased. There was no way the priest was getting up from that. As the debris cleared, it revealed the cultist, robes completely disintegrated, with mangled flesh that exposed bone. He slumped to the ground and did not rise. With his Byakugan, Boruto could see that the fire of his chakra had died. He was dead. "We're charging extra for this one," Boruto griped. "Double the normal fee," Hikari agreed. Boruto made their way to the entrance of the tunnel, eager to be rid of the dank cavern. Boruto didn't believe his eyes. He watched, the veins in his temple writhing, as the priest's chakra flared back to life. "That's not possible," he exclaimed, whirling to face their enemy once more. Hikari too, watched in disbelief as the man rose after being struck, again, with her strength, and her Rasengan. The cultists broke out into hysteric, maniacal laughter at the two looks of blatant disbelief. "Fools, you cannot kill me. I am the faithful of Lord Jashin." "Immortal," Hikari concluded. "Either some forbidden technique or some type of regenerative ability that prevents death in all but the most extreme circumstances. Perhaps both." "What do we do?" Boruto asked, a little rattled. It wasn't very often Yoda put down an aberration of nature. Life was, by definition, demarcated by death. What was one without the other? "We need to do some more serious damage," Hikari instructed. "Remove limbs, behead him, destroy his body at a cellular level. He can't heal from everything." "Right," Boruto said, confidence restored with a plan of action. He reached behind his shirt and withdrew a scroll that he kept hidden there. One of several. The priest howled with madness and charged them even as Boruto unfurled the scroll and hurled it at the man. "Release," Boruto intoned. The scroll glowed with chakra as its seal was undone. A thick, heavy mist seeped from its paper. The cultist barreled ahead, heedless of the danger. By the time he had crossed the room and emerged from the mist, his skin had been eaten away, exposing nothing but angry pink muscle and rapidly regenerating skin. Not even boy release had put him down. Hikari weaved a few hand seals and spat a blade of pressurized water at the priest that bit deep into his flesh and knocked him to his feet. At the same time, Boruto drew 2 shuriken and channeled his chakra into them. They glowed blue and Boruto raised them to his lips before exhaling on them. They began to spin at great speeds around his fingers, enhanced by wind chakra. He hurled both of them at the prone form of the priest, aiming for his arms and legs. One shuriken cut his sword arm off from the forearm down, the other maiming his left leg, leaving it attached by a small length of flesh. The priest growled like a feral dog and began to crawl forward. Boruto could see the madness in his eyes, the single-minded desire to inflict pain upon them in the name of his god. Hikari appeared in a blur of speed above him, brought her kneel down upon his back. Boruto could see with his Byakugan, every bone in his back shatter and turn to dust. Before the cultist could do anything, Hikari had kicked his leg, finishing when Boruto started and leapt away to safety. The priest lay there, writhing in pain and frothing at the mouth. He stared up at the two of them filled with hateful eyes, wanting nothing less to inflict pain on them. Hikari motioned for Boruto to finish the job. He held out his hand, chakra condensing into his sphere once more. In a burst of speed, he slammed the Rasengan into the man's ravaged back. The stone cracked, fissures erupting outward in a star pattern. Boruto watched as the priest's chakra died again. He watched and waited and watched, and sure enough, a few moments later, it kindled back to life. "This isn't going to work," Boruto said. He quickly ran through a number of the seals he had been slowly learning over the past few years. There were many seals designed to incapacitate an opponent, or seal chakra into someone or something, but nothing to seal a person. At least, not without them being dead first. "What are we supposed to do then?" Hikari asked. Boruto looked around and smiled. He withdrew another scroll and retreated to the entrance of the cavern. Even as the priest's flesh was slowly knitting back together, he could hear the man's low rasping as he weathered the pain. "Here," Boruto said, handing Hikari one end of the scroll and pushing her to the left side of the tunnel. He took the other and stood at the right side. A length of scroll was exposed, covered in the archaic characters of the sealing scroll. "Be ready to run," Boruto informed her. He channeled some of his chakra into the scroll, powering it and releasing the seals. "Release," he intoned. A hail of kunai were expelled from the scroll, their blades sinking into the stone from the force behind them. A paper tag fluttered from the hilt and Hikari's eyes went wide with the sheer number of explosives that Boruto just divested. "Run!" Boruto barked, already heading towards the entrance. Hikari was quick to follow. No! Lord Jashin demands vengeance. Heathens! Blasphemers! That was the last thing either Boruto or Hikari heard before the sound of explosives rocked the mountain and collapsed the cavern. They dove from the entrance of the cave as the tunnels collapsed behind them, sending debris and dust chasing after them. For good measure, Boruto plastered a few explosive tags in the cave entrance and collapsed it. Boruto and Hikari shared a weary, exasperated look. Triple the price, Hikari agreed with a nod. The Steam Lord owed them a great debt.